Hello and welcome everybody to episode number 68 of the RDO podcast with the boys, Jason and Alex Von Cannell. How are you this morning, Al?
I'm alright.
You alright?
I got cupped yesterday. I got a massage and I got...
You got cupped by your masseuse.
Yeah.
Can't you sue for that?
No, not if you paid for it. Not if you explicitly asked for it. No, I've never had cupping before. And for people that don't know, it's like a little round cup with a little pump on the back of it, and they put it on parts of your body and they pump it, and it sucks all the blood to that area, and it feels amazing. Now, my back, which I have shown you this morning, it does look like I came out of the pod in the Matrix.
Yeah, yep.
And it will be like that for a very long time.
Yeah.
It is not. He
has got massive round bruises all up his back.
Yeah, but because they're symmetrical, I look cybernetic.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, it was cool. It was very cool. Highly recommend.
Cool. Oh, it's good to have those sorts of experiences. I've been a little bit down this week. I'm actually going to the doctor's this afternoon because I think I inhaled a whole bunch of like bird poo dust when I got rid of I had this old bar sitting out the back of my house just for years, which we never used. It was just in the way, and decided to get rid of it last weekend. And when I was like taking it apart and putting it in the van before I took it to the tip, I was like brushing all the dust and stuff off it. And there's obviously, we've had birds and stuff out the back, so there's like all this bird poo on it. And I reckon I've inhaled some of it. And
is it diphtheria?
I don't know. Like, I could
Is
be.
it bird flu?
Probably. Depends on what the birds had, I guess. Some sort of avian
If
flu.
it's pigeons, they've got everything.
Yeah, probably. Oh, it's not pigeons. It's other birds.
Ibis?
We don't get ibis out the back either.
Oh.
It's like little like minor birds and stuff.
Lucky you, showing how rich you are.
No,
We don't have ibis. We don't have bin chickens.
Show how rich I am. Yeah, we just live off the back of the mangroves. But yeah, so I felt pretty ordinary this week. So I'll go to the doctors and get checked out this afternoon.
Well, I want to start because I did something really stupid during the week, and it's something that I should know better. It's something that I've advocated not to do here, and yet I found myself engaging in it.
Confession time.
I got in a fight with someone online. And I'll go through the range of emotions that I had. The post that I put on someone's page was, love your work, keep on going. That was my comment.
Yeah.
And then someone said, no, it isn't. And I said, great comment. That's it. Great comment. And I thought that was it. That was over. Nah. I reckon we exchanged 40 texts and we were getting nowhere.
Not like text messages.
No.
Comments.
Comments, back and forth.
Yeah.
Getting nowhere.
Yeah.
Getting absolutely nowhere. Just two sides of a debate. Had nothing to do with the post. And I'm ringing. I've rung you. I've rung another mate, just saying, man, I'm stuck in this thing. I don't want to lose, so I have to keep going. But I'm like, no, this is the dumbest thing ever. This is so stupid. And then when I had another look at it, so I got over it by that point. I was like, 45 messages, that was enough. Right? So I've already wasted enough time. But then I had a look at the rest of the thread. She was fighting everyone.
Yeah.
And to the point where I don't think that's a person.
No, she's a bot, bro.
If it's not a bot, I genuinely feel, and I don't want to sound tinfoil hatty, I genuinely feel like it was a farm, like it had come out of a click farm, where they're just bashing everyone, because this person was against the thing that was on this guy's page. I was pro the thing on this guy's page. So I was hanging out on this guy's page because I like what he does. This chick does not like what he does and is just going to town on every single comment. And then I noticed, I had a little bit of a further look. There was a few people that are just going in attacking, and they're all using the same sort of taglines. I think it's a farm.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a troll farm.
Troll farm.
Troll
Yeah.
farm.
Oh, 100%. Like, they obviously exist. And
I fell for it.
And you fell for it. Absolutely, you fell for it.
Idiot. So stupid.
Did you...
I was upset. I was like, no, I'm going to get this bitch. right? And like when you hit them with something rational, they just come at you with something so irrational. There's nothing you can do. Like, you have to come back irrational, and then you've got two irrational people talking about it. You get nowhere.
Arguing with a random online is this sort of... It's the dumbest game in the world because the only way to win is not to play.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, the one saving grace that I had in my own psyche is I thought when I backed away from it, I thought I was going to feel really bad. I thought I was going to be like, she got me?
Like it's a concession.
Yeah. And I did not have that feeling. Not one bit. Not one bit.
Because she's a bot.
Yeah, it's like, have you seen that? There's a
crypto equivalent of arguing with Siri.
There's a crypto meme, and it's like, when a hot girl asks you something about crypto online, don't respond to him.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw something else too that was similar. It was something about like the Project Veritas videos, and it's like it's these two people out on a date, and the guy's thinking like, wow, this girl's way out of my league. I can't believe she's into me, and she's like, so tell me more about the vaccine your company makes. Right?
Yeah, don't get catfished, guys.
Yeah, don't get catfished.
Or get catfished if you like it.
Oh, if you want to.
If you like the taste of catfish.
It is an acquired taste.
Isn't there a movie on... There's a movie with... I don't know if it's just out on Netflix. Tarsha only watched it during the week, and it's got Jimmy O Yang in it. And I think he uses a hot guy's profile to... And people who don't know who Jimmy O Yang is, he's from Silicon Valley. Or what was his character name in Silicon Valley?
Can't remember.
And... yeah, he basically catfishes this girl, and then they spend enough time together, and they fall in love. So there's hope for you catfish out there. Embrace the catfish.
Embrace the catfish.
Maybe I should go out with this trollfish.
Yeah, hit him up.
Hit him up.
Hit that Nigerian bloke up.
So yeah,
could be a prince. Could be trying to get some money out of the country.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. So don't engage in arguments over the internet. It is a complete utter waste of time.
Look, it's real. Yeah.
It achieves nothing. It makes.
I wouldn't say it achieves nothing, but it depends who you argue with.
Yeah, true.
Like I told you about a little while ago.
You've had a couple of good ones.
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned on the podcast, but I had an argument with a medical professional who had made some comments which I thought were what's the word for it? Reckless would probably be the way I'd describe it. And it was obviously, to him, I believe it was a bit of an off-the-cuff sort of comment, but the problem is he has such a large following and it's such a delicate area that based on the comments underneath it, a whole bunch of people were like, oh, thanks for saying that.
Right.
And then I felt a moral responsibility to engage and say, hey, what you've done here, you should know as a science-based person is completely incorrect and not how you should be handling it. And I showed you the stoush, and he came pretty hard back at me too, like a wailing schoolgirl at the beginning of it. But at the end of it, essentially admitted that what he had said was wrong and agreed to remove the post. Yeah. So, sometimes it can be worth it, but generally, if someone comments on your on a post on anything, the first thing I do is I click on it to see if they've got more than one photo and any contact information at all. Because if they don't, it's a bot.
Well, then I got scared too because she tried to follow me because I've got mine set to private, my Instagram set to private. Yeah. And then I was like, no, like this troll's just going to troll all my stuff, and Mm-hmm. I started feeling really self-conscious. Like, maybe she doesn't like my motorbike. Or the clothes I wear.
You're going to end up dating this bloke, aren't you?
The picture with Nate. Or ugly baby.
Oh, man. The internet is just a wild place.
Yeah, the best way to play is don't play.
No, the only way to win is not to play. Keep that in mind.
Good tip.
Speaking of things that don't make any sense, what a week down in Melbourne. What a week.
It's amazing what kind of pressure, what you can make happen with a bit of pressure.
Yeah, well, So what we're referring to, obviously, is there's been protests every day this week in front of Parliament.
Non-violent protests.
Non-violent protests. There was... It's so funny. Obviously, the corporate media just wants to continually talk about the one person who brought those gallows with them as a prop.
Yeah.
And was talking about how that's a threat of violence and blah, blah, blah. And they just want to discount the other 100,000 people who were there, peacefully protesting, who a lot of those protesters are like, yeah, that's a dickhead. Like, they shouldn't do that.
What's the lowest attendance number you heard from the corporate media?
5,000.
2,000 was the lowest I heard.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, the estimates are somewhere between probably 50 and 130,000.
Yeah.
Somewhere around that number. At the end of the day, is a shit ton of people.
Yeah.
And I feel like that number is pretty important because of how socially unacceptable it is for people to attend these protests.
Yeah.
So you and I were talking about this just a little bit earlier about the cult of COVID. And you're seeing that in real time every single day now. It's become a cult. And the reason why you can tell it's a cult is because if you're not allowed to question it, it's a cult.
Yeah.
So if you grow up in the church and you question the church, obviously you can get shunned out of the church. Right?
Yeah.
It's the same as any other cult because it is all about just doing what you're told and following the narrative, and anyone who steps out of that, they're crazy.
Yeah. And
what's been particularly confronting for me this week has been how we've had state leaders, premiers, and particularly Dan Andrews and Mark McGowan, refer to protesters as extremists. And this is
particularly right-wing extremists.
But even just using the term extremist,
yeah,
you can call them right-wing, because a lot of them would probably identify as right-wing. But isn't it funny too how there's been this, at least to me, there's been an apparent shift in values between right-wing and left-wing.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
I've always thought that left-wing people were about freedom.
Yeah.
And right-wing people were about authoritarianism, policing, control, etc. And now it's like if you go, I just want to have freedom of choice, they go, right-wing extremist!
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
I also found, you've spoken about it before, the magnification of a particular thing. So there was the corporate media definitely zoomed in on the gallows, the picture of the gallows. So one person in 100,000.
One person out of 100,000.
And then also would only show a lot of red imagery, I noticed too. So they really, really, really go to extreme lengths to paint a particular picture.
And such a powerful tool. And
what about I don't know if you're going to talk about this, but the MP's daughter
got
assaulted?
I was going to bring that up as well.
I think it's a good time because that was another example. So basically an MP's daughter was assaulted, had a can thrown at her.
So just to, I think it's, his name is it Andy Merrick or something? Anyway, just important to note that he is one of the 3 crossbenchers who has been working with the Dan Andrews government on trying to push this pandemic bill through.
Yeah. And then the story breaks and he comes out, the father comes out, the MP, he comes out with a statement saying that this is direct violence aimed at political parties and their families.
Yeah, he's like, my worst fears have been realised. They've targeted my family because of my political stances and blah, blah, blah.
Then a day later, the police come out and say, well, she was graffitiing.
Yeah.
Someone pulled her up on it. She threw the can at him.
Yeah.
She ran away. He threw the can at her and hit her in the back of the head.
That's right. Cracking shot too.
Oh yeah,
if she's running down if he hit a moving target in the back of the head, cracking shot.
I saw the footage. It was
and that's the thing. Look, we're not condoning violence, but what I think is disgusting.
Before you get to that, that sentiment, like the fact that the government was willing to use that sentiment, knowing that, or like at least. You should have some knowledge that the truth is going to come out. Yeah. Especially if it went to the police, you know. that just goes to show how brazen and how desperate they are to move the narrative.
But I even wonder how much of it is just arrogance and how much of it's actual delusion. Because with the bloke, like with the dad who came out and said, she's been targeted because of my political beliefs. I don't know how much of that story came from her to him. And maybe she's told him, I was just minding my own business. Yeah. And this guy came and said, you old mate's daughter, I'm going to bash you. And then she ran away and got hit in the back of the head with a can. You don't know.
And maybe the throwee of the can was the one that went to the police and not her.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. Potentially. But that's the thing. What was so interesting about this story was how quickly they leveraged it to aim and to paint all of the protesters
100,000 people
as violent extremists, and that they've all been threatening the families of I do not know anyone who is protesting against the bill who is wishing harm against the MPs' families. I'm pretty sure, as far as everyone's concerned, living with people like Dan Andrews is probably punishment enough. Yeah. Why would you punish the families for what the politicians are doing? Look, that makes no sense. No, I don't think anyone wants that.
No, and the argument could also be made that the people there are wanting more freedoms for people, and a lot of those people are vaxxed, yet are anti-bill, anti this mandate.
Yeah.
And therefore they want more freedoms, not violence, not...
But what was interesting too, which also came out after the police came, like VicPol came out and said what the actual story was that happened. So just to confirm again, she was spray painting over a poster or something like that at 11 o'clock at night. She's a 25-year-old woman.
Yeah.
11 o'clock at night, spray painting over a poster. A guy basically went up and I assume was like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
She threw the can at him.
Yeah.
And he threw it back at her.
Yeah.
And it hit her.
Yeah.
But what has since come out is the internet found a lot of her social media posts.
Yeah, I saw this.
Which talk about violently attacking / killing Nazis. And it's just to give you a little sample, like from the 7th of January, so she was talking about like some of the riots over at the Capitol building in America. The only way to beat a Nazi in the marketplace of ideas is with a crowbar until their 2 brain cells leak out.
Yeah.
So that's just one of her tweets. Now, when you've got politicians coming out saying threats of violence against us just because of our political beliefs, like that's not fair, and yet that's what your daughter's out there tweeting out into the world, that she's happy to beat Nazis. And again, when they are widely using the terms Nazis for like people who are just trying to peacefully protest.
Well, that's the concern to me, is that it's easy, well, it seems easy even in this case, to link, because she's obviously showing very anti-Nazi sentiment, and then I can see it being moved, like the narrative being moved to, well, if you're against her, then you're pro-Nazi.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem. The other part of the problem,
but this guy's just anti having stuff sprayed, like graffiti.
Yeah, he's just anti-graffiti. and that's the thing, like for the politician to come out and go, it's because of like she's my daughter. Well, I don't think the dude was patrolling the streets looking for her out spray painting at 11 o'clock at night. You know, he wouldn't have had a clue who this chick was.
I mean, there's no way you can tell that. It's a massive assumption. I just don't. Regardless, she was in the wrong. And it was used as a political tool.
That's right.
And I just wonder how much cut through that has had already in that one day.
I can tell you, it has already caused damage to the movement, and it's designed that way.
For sure.
And this language, like calling protesters rioters or extremists or neo-Nazis, it is dehumanizing language. If you call someone something and you brand them as the thing, when we know that the thing itself is deplorable, it's designed to have you, the general public, think that that person is deplorable. Yeah. And that's why they've been called that name in the first place. And look, people have been heavily criticized for having this perspective on it, but a lot of people have compared what is happening now, vaxxed versus unvaxxed, as to what happened back in Nazi Germany against the Jews before the Holocaust. And we're not saying that there's a Holocaust going on at the moment. But what happened back in the day, it didn't happen overnight. And the main thing that was so effective with Hitler's propaganda campaign was creating an environment where normal German people were disgusted in the Jewish people. That was the environment that was created. Because they couldn't just do it on their own. They had to have buy-in from the wider community before, organising an extermination is a pretty difficult thing to do on a general day-to-day. But if you create an environment of disgust, and that's what concerns me the most about the language that's used, anti-vaxxers,
very destructive,
right-wing extremists, neo-Nazis, you're literally creating an environment now where there is a percentage of the population who is being told every single day that anti-vaxxers, they're not doing the right thing, they're putting everyone else in danger, which we know is nonsense. We know it's nonsense because we paid attention to the science and to the data.
Gibraltar?
100%
vax rate?
Yep.
Cancelling Christmas this year? Why?
Yep, because...
Massive surge in cases?
100%
vaccinated.
That's right.
Interesting.
So anyone who's actually paid attention to the data knows that all of these things that are being said are nonsense. But then you have to analyse why they're being said. And they're being said for a reason. And the reason is, it is way easier to control everyone if you have them convinced of the certain narrative, and it's divide and conquer.
Yeah.
It has worked. Every single time it's been done in history, it's worked.
Yeah.
And we are, the structures around society have used these tricks in their tool bag forever. I mean, look at the whole, and I don't want to really get into it, but one quick point I'll make about, there was the Kyle Rittenhouse case out of America, where essentially someone was at a Black Lives Matter protest, was trying to help, and was attacked, shot and killed 2 people, and injured another one, and he's just been acquitted. And when this was first reported last year, because America's such a powder keg when it comes to race, it just went straight stratospheric into the thing of this kid's a racist and blah, blah, blah.
I was under the impression at the start that he killed black people.
Yeah, because that's what you're led to believe.
Yeah.
He killed white people.
Yeah.
So they literally made a race war out of a case of a white person killing white people who attack him in the street.
Yeah.
Right? And even now, it's still racially charged now.
Yeah.
And you just go, what is the purpose of that? Does that benefit the wider communities? I said wider with a D, not whiter.
Yeah.
But does it benefit wider communities to create division where there is none? Well, no. At the end of the day, it's a case of, obviously the case has been judged on its merits, but even now you've still got, you've got commentators saying he only got off because he's white. And it's it's not helpful.
I think the big lesson out of it, and myself included in this, is you can't judge a case by the headlines.
No.
You can't judge anything by the headlines.
No, you just can't.
And that's what we're being pushed to do. And the headlines are getting so outlandish now so that they can get eyes on, so that they can get their advertisers paid.
Yeah.
And the surprising thing is that the information's available. Yeah. You just need to know how to disseminate it.
Yeah. I want to talk about the cult of COVID, because this has become very relevant recently. And it is a real thing. And what we're talking about with the cult of COVID is the environment that's been created around COVID, the disease, around vaccinations, around treatments, around the whole thing. And it is literally that whole thing of a cult being, you can't question it, otherwise you're crazy and you should be out. And I had a conversation during the week with someone who literally said things such as, if we weren't vaccinated, if we didn't have the vaccine, we'd all be dead.
Yeah.
And I said, well, that's ridiculous, because last year we had 29,000 people get COVID in Australia and 900 died. Yeah. And there was no vaccine until February.
Yeah.
So that's ridiculous.
Yeah, but that's what the headline would
But the headline, and just think about the rhetoric we've been getting from our politicians in regards to opening the borders. COVID's going to hit the community, and the hospitals can't keep up, and there's going to be skyrocketing deaths.
How many hospitals have we built?
0.
Okay.
And
are we building other infrastructure around COVID?
Yeah.
Okay.
Happy camps. I just want to give you guys some updated numbers. So one of the the best data sources that you can go to is covidlive.com.au. It's the COVID tracker. It literally tracks every number when it comes to COVID. And so up until as of today, in total in Australia, we've had 196,962 cases of COVID. So it's 196,000 cases. As far as deaths go, we've had 1,938. So that's a 1% death rate. And I said that to this person this week. I was like, it's got a 1% death rate, and the median age of death is 80. And they're like, no, that's ridiculous. And I'm like, I'm so concerned because there will be so many people in the same boat who all they've done is turn the TV on every day, and they've been convinced that if we open the borders, the world's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
But this thing has a 1% death rate.
Yeah.
And that is including the fact that 900 people died last year before vaccines. And we've said before, we do believe that vaccines have a part in protecting the vulnerable, the elderly, immunocompromised from COVID. We believe that.
Yeah.
We also believe that there's a risk-reward trade-off calculation that needs to be made.
WHO came out and said no to booster shots for the healthy. This is, and the line they used was something like, this agenda needs to stop.
Really?
The WHO said that, yeah, as the UK has just approved booster shots.
Yeah, well, I mean,
again, the World Health Organization?
Well, as we said last week too, they have come out and said there is a likely causal association between mRNA vaccines and myocarditis. So they're now admitting that the stuff that we've been talking about for months is there's now enough overwhelming data to show that we were right.
And think about the news too. The news used to quote WHO when it had outlandish claims of like really negative things. Now they're saying, okay, we need to cool it a little bit. Okay, we need to have a closer look at the vaccination program. We need to stop booster shots for healthy people.
Yep.
No mention, zero mention of it.
Yep. And even things like, so we're looking at approving these shots for kids 5 to 11.
They'll be approved, I've no doubt.
Yeah, and
why wouldn't they?
And they're looking at approving it by, I think January is when they're looking at approving it. But you just go like, why? Like what?
It makes no sense.
Yeah, what is the point? Look, maybe approving a vaccine for immunocompromised kids between the ages of 5 and 11, I'm okay with that.
Yep.
But doing blanket vaccination of that age group makes no sense when you look at the numbers. So if I look at the updated numbers, and this is on health.gov.au, in the 0 to 9 age group, there has been 14,378 cases in males and 13,690 cases in females. So that's almost 28,000 cases, and there's been 0 deaths. So what is the
Why
point?
is it even a conversation?
Yeah, exactly.
And, sorry, it could be a conversation if, like we've wanted from the beginning, if it was a vaccine that stopped you from getting it, stopped you from transmitting it.
That's right.
Then you might be able to justify why you'd give it to kids, so that they couldn't then give it to their parents.
Yep.
We know now it's extremely leaky vaccine, and you are going to give it to someone anyway.
Yep. But the problem is you then have public health bureaucrats coming out and just blatantly lying to people saying, oh, like I heard Jeanette Young, before she got promoted to governor, she just pulled a figure out of her ass saying that it reduces your chance of spreading it down to 25%. And I'm sitting there watching the TV just frustrated going, what's that based on? Can you show the science?
How is it possible? The vaccination rate goes up every single day, yet the case rate's been going up until now. Can I explain why?
Sure.
So, 5 days ago, I was watching the New South Wales health report, and as of the 15th of this month, New South Wales no longer counts regional cases.
Isn't it bizarre?
And then on this morning's news, they quote, New South Wales cases going down. Of course, because you're not counting them anymore. Now, which is what we predicted. Now, we did predict it. We thought it was going to be because So we thought they're going to change the testing to antigen as opposed to PCR. I don't think we didn't foresee them not testing them. But my friend in America,
there was a point that I had made, which was Kerry Chant, Dr. Kerry Chant had made she'd said in a press conference that they were updating what constitutes a close contact. So in other words, because they were reducing the amount of close contacts or who was gauged as a close contact, that automatically reduces the amount of people that get tested. And if you don't test, you don't find any cases.
Well, they're not doing hotspots and contact tracing anymore. It's now on the person that tests positive and the businesses associated with it.
Yeah, so in other words, like you now have to police yourself, call everyone. It's like getting an STD and then go and have to call all your previous sexual partners going, so you itchy?
But that is just an example of how they've had this plan the whole time. Sell as many units as you possibly can.
Yep.
Show its efficacy, not by real data, but just change the data set. Okay, let's just remove...
Just change the definition of success.
Change the definition of success. That's exactly right. And
because realistically, if you actually look at the data, last year in Australia seems way more successful than this year. So last year we had a higher death rate as far as a percentage goes, because there's about 29,000 cases last year and 909 deaths. But this year we've had, because I think if the total number is 190,000, that means you've had 160,000 cases this year and you've had a similar amount of deaths. So realistically, last year looks like a better result because you had way less cases.
Yeah, you can't say that, man. You can't say that because we had no vaccine.
Well, yeah, that's kind of my point.
No, but you can't say that.
Because it's not like we haven't had lockdowns this year.
And I just want a side note, this thing that keeps on coming through my head every time I'm watching one of these any news report, any commentator talking about it, they're not even, like, they'll tag it about safety, but it's all about the primary focus is upping the rate of vaccination.
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah. And again, like we've said before, wordplay. So the phrases they use is COVID-19 vaccination is still the safest and most effective way at protecting yourself from serious disease.
Yeah. Or hospitalisation.
Or hospitalisation from COVID.
Yeah.
But they don't say, like, it's got no side effects. They don't say, like, there are no adverse effects and people aren't going to hospital because of the vaccine.
Yeah.
But they just say that it's still the best way of keeping yourself safe from COVID. Which could potentially be correct. Potentially. But they're just kind of leaving out a massive data set, which is kind of important to make a decision.
I spoke to 2 people during the week that had the worst reactions to it, and they've been out, like, on their ass for 3 days.
Yeah.
And, like, the most excruciating pain ever. I was like, no thanks. No thanks.
You know, Queensland has still only had, like, 2,099 cases or something the entire pandemic.
But it's coming for us.
Oh, yeah, it's on our doorstep.
Yeah.
It's going to hunt down the unvaccinated too.
So I had the argument, and I said it last week, but I had the argument with someone, show me a correlation between high vax rates and low case numbers. Mm-hmm. You can't do it. I've looked everywhere. I purposely go and try and, like, find information counter to my interpretation of it. Can't find it. Doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. But what I found very interesting is there is a direct correlation to temperature.
Yeah.
So Europe is getting smashed.
Mm-hmm. We called this months ago.
Yeah.
Like, at the start of this year, we called this.
Yeah.
Because, like, again, remembering our cases and death number plummeted off a cliff about end of October last year. Mm. And we had no real issues until sort of March, April the year after.
Yep.
Which was after the vaccine rollout had started.
Yep.
But it's just because it's seasonal, because respiratory viruses spread more in the colder weather.
And you look at any data throughout the world, just go on Google, type in a country, hit COVID, and it'll give you case rates, vaccination rates, death rates, plotted over time in a graph, and you can see there's always a spike when it's cold.
That's right. The other thing too, like, the biggest reason why I guess people on, like, the red pillars are so frustrated is because all we want is transparency.
Yeah.
That's all we want. And it has not been transparent since right from the beginning.
Yeah.
And in a way, like, the problem is, it's like with public policy, they just think that everyone is too dumb and therefore they can't be trusted to make their own decisions.
Yeah.
And that's pretty clear in a lot of the policies that have been made. So, like, look at Queensland, for example. When we hit 70% double dose, they're like, the great news is that people can start coming home, but they have to come home by air, so you still can't drive over the border. Mm. So, in other words, if you live in Moolumba, you need to make your way to Sydney,
Newcastle, you go to Newcastle.
Or Newcastle. But if you're going to an airport, like New South Wales has active COVID cases, a couple hundred a day, 300 a day. So
only in city centres. Because they don't count them.
yeah.
So just to be clear, there's 0 regional cases. That is a fact. There is 0. It just goes to show the efficacy of the vaccination rate. Well done, New South Welsh people.
That's right.
You've done it.
Don't question it. But you need to go to an airport, which generally have few people around airports, right?
Mm.
Normally they're pretty busy. And then you need to get on a metal cylinder with a couple hundred people in it.
A ride share.
Yeah, with a couple hundred people in it. And then you fly up to another airport with a lot of people around there. And then you presumably
have
to take...
heaps of fresh air up in the sky though, right?
Yeah.
You're not in a sealed container.
Yeah, you are in a sealed container.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you have to presumably take some sort of public transport to get home. That is safer than driving your own car with yourself in it over the border.
Yeah, but it's like the wear a mask when you're standing up, but not when you're sitting down.
Oh,
that funny TikTok.
So,
almost got you.
So all that sort of stuff, like that's the sort of stuff that if you want people to buy in, just don't treat them like they're fucking idiots. And that's how we've been treated the entire time. And there was a fantastic story I found this week, which I sent into the group chat. It didn't get anywhere near the response that I was expecting. So I'm assuming you guys just didn't read it.
Probably. No. No, I didn't.
FDA asks court for 55 years to fully release Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine data.
Oh, I did read that.
You
did? I did read that. It's not 55 years. They didn't say, hey, can we have 55 years? They said, can we have X amount of time per page? Yeah. Which turned out to be 55 years. We needed time to redact, mate. Like, we're going to change the ink in the redacting pen.
Yeah, they'll have to redact everything.
Yeah.
So just to tell, I'll put the link up for this, but I'll give you a bit of the article. The Food and Drug Administration asked a federal judge on the November 15 to give it until the year 2076 to fully release the documents in its possession tied to the approval of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. The FDA's request was made in a filing as part of a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit by a medical transparency group. So I think they want transparency as well, just like we do. The government told the court it has 329,000 pages of documents responsive to the Freedom of Information Act request and proposed releasing 500 pages per month to allow for redactions of exempt material.
Do you think a lot of those pages were made up by like real estate listings of like mansions that the executives are going to buy, big boats? Hey, if we push this many units, I'm getting a G7.
Yeah, and all like the contracts between Pfizer and government officials of if you can get to X amount of vaccination rate, this will be your bonus.
It's the Wolf of Wall Street scene, that pump-up scene, and he's like, they don't have any money, get an airfield!
So it says at that rate...
They did that too, by the way.
Yeah. At that rate, the FDA would fully release the records in question in just under 55 years. Now, fully release is a pretty loose term when they're literally saying we need time to redact everything.
And then, like, I'm just thinking of those people with, like, sore wrists. Man, my redact hand is broken.
Yeah. So let's listen to this bit. So this is the plaintiff. The FDA's promise of transparency is, to put it mildly, a pile of illusions. Aaron Siri, whose firm is representing the medical transparency group in a lawsuit, wrote in a blog post on November 17. It took the FDA precisely 108 days from when Pfizer started producing the records for licensure to when the FDA licensed the Pfizer vaccine. Taking the FDA at its word, it conducted an intense, robust, thorough, and complete review and analysis of those documents in order to assure that the Pfizer vaccine was safe and effective for licensure to get its license.
Yeah, I got that.
while it can conduct that intense review of Pfizer's documents in 108 days, it now asks for over 20,000 days to make these documents available to the public.
It's like, whoa. Like, you don't have to rewrite it. You just have to give it to us. Like, we could have it this afternoon.
Yeah, like they've got the pages.
You've got it. It's like, they're right there.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to hand them over.
Just hand them over.
No, I can't give you these ones, man.
Nah,
There's too much, like...
there's too much good shit in here.
There's too much information that'll get us in heaps of trouble. And I just bought my jet.
Yeah. So when you consider the fact that the FDA, which is a government organisation, won't release that information to a medical transparency group. When you consider the fact that none of us, Australian taxpayers, will ever see the official contract between our government and Pfizer to purchase these doses.
Yeah, even though it's our money.
When it's our money.
Our elected officials did the deal.
That's right. Like, and people wonder why you're questioning things.
Yeah.
If you were just transparent about it, maybe we wouldn't have to question things. But when you, like, it's just ridiculous not to. Really.
It's insane not to.
It is insane. But we've created an environment where we have gotten people to become so scared of the air that they will literally just cop whatever you tell them now.
Yeah.
And there's, like, perfect example of it during the week. Literally, those comments. If we didn't have the vaccine, we'd all be dead. That is so bonkers.
Yeah.
It is so out of touch with reality.
Yeah. Well, how a lot of West Africa doesn't have vaccines, and they're doing better than the West.
Yeah.
What's their excuse?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's that anti-parasitic drug that they take called Sunday over there.
Yeah.
To remind them to take it every Sunday.
Yeah.
Like, it is just mind-boggling that's where we're at. And, like, that's why we're calling it the cult of COVID. It's honestly, it's exhausting. Like, it's that level of delusion is just insane to me.
And if you're one of those little foot soldiers that are pushing it without any, like, that if you haven't looked, see, I'd be quite happy. I'm quite outspoken. Okay, so in my network, I'm not shy of it. I'm happy to have the conversation with anyone.
Yeah.
No one's challenged me.
Yeah.
No one. And they know why. They know why. So they can say, and look, I'm not saying I'm not saying to those people that you've done the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, don't tell me unless you've prepared.
Exactly.
And you haven't prepared.
And that's the difference.
Yeah.
Is that, because I'm exactly the same. Like, as far as I'm concerned, every adult has the right to make their own decisions.
Sure.
And that the right to make your own decisions also includes the right to look into the information surrounding those decisions or not to. You can be as informed or ignorant as you like. It's completely up to you.
Yeah.
So I've never gone to anyone in my network and told them, don't get the vaccine.
Yeah.
I've never said that. All I have said is, don't get it under false pretenses.
Yeah.
Because we talk, like, not we, but the medical community talks about informed consent all the time. There has been zero informed consent during this rollout. Zero.
It's all wordplay.
It's all wordplay. 100%. Like, when we keep saying that all these adverse events are rare, like, you need
There's just a shitload of rare ones.
Yeah.
There's shitloads of them.
Like, you need to
And they're the ones that are reported.
That's right. And the reporting rate's probably 1%.
Yeah, there's a shitload more.
Yeah, and something that's started coming out of corporate media recently is a lot of news stories about people who have reported adverse events, and particularly around myocarditis, who've been bounced by their doctors.
Yeah.
Who've been either told it's in their head, which I think is disgusting, if true.
Because it's in the heart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also when have then been pressed to say, hey, you're going to put in an adverse event report, gone, oh, no, I'm too busy. You can do it yourself.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, when you consider the TGA's job, for example, right? So the TGA is supposed to be screening all of these different adverse reports. If you get an adverse report from Joe Citizen and an adverse report from Dr. Joe Citizen, cardiologist, which one of those are you going to have, like, think has more weight?
Yeah.
So for those of you, like, we all do taxes every year, right? If you go to an accountant, like a H&R Block, and they do your tax for you, generally, you don't get audited because they know that a professional's doing it. if you do e-tax and do it yourself, you're more likely to get audited and get asked questions because they don't trust you because you're not a professional. You may have just made a mistake.
So something funny that I heard during the week, I spoke to 2 different people that went and spoke to their doctors about it.
Right.
And one doctor said that if you have a large immune response, like a very negative immune response to the vaccine, that means that if you would have got COVID, it would have affected you really badly. And the other guy was told, no, stop. The other guy was told by his doctor that because he had such a bad reaction, an immune response to the vaccine, it means that he's got a really strong immune system.
So he's got a strong immune system, so he wouldn't have needed the vaccine anyway to protect him from COVID.
Correct.
Look, the scary thing for me about this stuff, number one, the delusion is not just general citizens. I think a lot of the delusional people now are doctors who have been trapped in this system for 2 years now, who have convinced themselves that there are no adverse events, and not all of them. I'm not saying all of them. I'm telling you there's some.
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that at all. I think they're playing within the parameters that they're allowed to play. Same amount of pressure that's being applied to the general public and businesses to get these vaccines through. Mm-hmm. I think behind closed doors, they are getting that for longer, have been pressured even more to get that done. And they've got more to lose than what we do. Licenses gone, obviously a lot of them are paid by Medicare. So
yeah, but people like with all the stories that have been coming out about people who've ended up being admitted to hospital with myocarditis and their doctors have played it off saying it, like their first doctors played off saying it's all in your head. That's a concern.
Yeah, I'm just doing what the government's telling me. I'm just doing what the government's telling me, man. Government's telling me if I don't do this, they're going to take my license.
Yeah, but no one's ever admitting that.
No, definitely not. Same reason why the government's not admitting that they're doing it for large brown paper bags.
Yeah, like it's just so... I just feel like, honestly, it's just a bizarre world we live in now. It's a completely bizarro world.
And look, there's a couple lessons, I think, out of it. Australians will lay down as...
Yeah. Our national identity is not what we thought it was.
Not even close. And this is going to sound really harsh. We've just come past Remembrance Day, right?
Yeah.
It's not a very Anzac attitude.
It's not.
I don't think.
Like, can you imagine if...
Oh, maybe you could spin it the other way. You could say that the majority...
They fought for our right to be a bitch?
No, like maybe it could just as easily be spun to say that the community got together and rallied together to do the right thing, even though it was wrong. Which is, in a way, which is what we did.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
so
it is.
Maybe that was an unfair comment.
But it's just so interesting how, like...
Why are we pro-government? Our government sucks. We talk about it at the pub all the time about how shit they are, how corrupt they are.
As a country, we've never been pro-government.
No.
Ever.
No.
Like, but no one's ever trusted a politician.
Jab me harder. Was it govern baby?
Govern me harder, daddy. But no one, like, if you would have gone back 2 years ago, and I always think, if, like, I apply whatever is going on today, and I apply it to what I feel the same way in 2019, before all of this shit. And if you went back 2019, and you said that the government said that I can't cross the border because I haven't had a flu shot, you'd be like, that's ridiculous. Have you got the flu or not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's normal now.
Yeah. Circumcision status is next.
Yeah. Well, but like, it's just so fascinating to me how willing people are to trust government while we've literally got 2 government corruption inquiries happening as we speak.
And they're not going well for the government.
And at the same time, you had the South Australian Parliament, both sides of Parliament, rushed through laws to pull the teeth out of their corruption watchdog.
And you've got the feds going, no, we don't need
it. We don't need one.
Yeah, we're good.
And then people are literally like, but I trust the government. They're just
Yeah.
doing everything to keep me safe.
Yeah.
Like, no.
No.
They're like literally doing everything to keep themselves paid. Most people don't like. There was a story that came out, and this is why again another sign that things are turning around, because I think now that tax break's been announced for the corporate media, well, hey, they know that ScoMo's possibly not going to be in government next year, so no need to pander to them anymore. Now we can start talking about some real news stories.
Yeah.
And one news story I saw this week was about how people were a little bit mind-boggled about how much some of these government bureaucrats are getting paid.
Yeah.
Brett Sutton's on like $700,000 a year
Yeah.
to tell people that they can't open their business.
Yeah.
You've got like Dan Andrews talking about like how good their economic recovery is going. Rental occupancy rates in the Melbourne CBD are at like 4%.
Really?
Yes.
I might need to move there. I've got to find a place by February.
Yeah, 4%.
Might go to the
This is
People's Republic.
This is commercial. This is business.
Oh, right,
business
right.
rentals.
Yeah, I need a business rental down there too.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So, like, why does anyone trust politicians? We've never trusted politicians before, ever, and now we're just sweet, because you've convinced me that I'm safer just trusting whatever you say. I'll trust whatever you say.
This is an argument I had with someone during the week, which was that person had argued to me about how many lanes the M1 has. I'm like, they're the people rolling this thing out, man.
Yeah.
Like, they can't even build a road.
Yeah.
And, like, their roadmap sucks.
Yeah.
Their roadmap has got potholes, not enough lanes, right? Going in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
We laugh about how if you ever get the government to do something, they'll fuck it up.
Yeah.
Like, that is an ongoing joke. We know that's reality. That is what is going to happen.
And we know that they're all in it for themselves.
Yeah.
Look at what Anastasia Palaszczuk has done for herself in the last 2 years. Oh, and she stuck her foot in her mouth too in Parliament, because they were talking about, these new rules on if you want to come back to Queensland, now you're going to have to pay for your own PCR test. So like after our government's literally spent billions of dollars on testing, all of a sudden now we're like, nah, if you want to come home, you got to pay for it yourself, $150. And she stands up in Parliament. She's like, when I went to Japan, so reminding everyone about how she went.
Yeah, she's the only person I know that's been on an overseas holiday.
Yeah. When I went to Japan, because they're a hotspot, I had to take these tests, and she was saying like, so this is normal, and then someone's like, but you didn't pay for it.
Yeah, we did.
And then she goes, well, it's in a work capacity, and then all the other politicians are like, you idiot!
So that's how far removed they are.
Yeah, exactly. But think about.
I still don't want to let her off the hook. I want to know where those PCR tests go.
And I'm telling you right now, I ain't letting her off the hook, and I'll tell you why. Look at what she has done for herself. She has promoted her bestie, Jeanette Young, to be governor. So if you have no confidence in the government, you go to the governor and you say, vote of no confidence in the current government, disband Parliament, and call an election. But now her bestie's governor, so that's never happening. So she's protected, at least for this term, until she can get voted out. But also, she has put herself in the Olympic Committee.
Yeah.
Which means she's guaranteed herself a job for the next 10 years until the Olympics come.
Yeah.
So she knows she's unpopular.
Yeah.
She knows there's a fair chance that this is her last term. So she's just given herself a job for the next 10 years in a public service.
And I'm still of the opinion that she's sending Daddy the PCR tests.
Probably.
Check out who Henry Palaszczuk is, what he does, what he's the CEO of.
Yeah. So...
Not a joke.
Yeah. It's wild, man. But we sort of gotten off subject because we got to talk about the pandemic legislation down in Victoria. Because it's taken some wild turns this week.
Okay, you need to start about it because I'm going to go for a piss.
Yeah, okay, you go. So, again, just as a bit of a refresher for anyone who has not really been hearing about it or has not listened to the podcast recently, but the Dan Andrews government is in the process of trying to pass their permanent pandemic legislation. And it is essentially something that is supposed to replace the state of emergency, which is due to expire on the 15th of December, which he does not have enough support to vote to extend the state of emergency. So he's just brought in this new bill instead. And the bill has some truly terrifying aspects in it. The main issue is the fact that it pretty much gives him centralized power, him and the the health minister, where he can essentially declare a pandemic whenever he chooses to, regardless of the presence of a disease, or like there only needs to be an identified disease of pandemic potential, which could even be overseas. So, for example, we could have zero COVID in Australia for 2 years in a row, and then there could be a case of COVID overseas. It's a new strain. So Dan Andrews could go, that's a disease of pandemic potential. I've declared a pandemic now. And as soon as the pandemic is declared, that then gives him a whole host of new tools in his toolbox. So he can do all the same lockdowns and everything like that. The fines for non-compliance for any of the health-related measures are like $90,000 for an individual, up to $450,000 for a business. He has zero liability for any order that is made during, like, whilst a pandemic is declared. He's literally got zero liability for any issues that come from that. So there's obviously a lot of terrifying things in this bill. Anyway, it breezed through the lower house because, as we discussed last week too, when you join the Labor Party in Victoria, at least, I don't know if it's
whether you know it or not.
No, yeah.
Whether you've been cash induced or not.
Yeah, no, but
whether you have access to the ballot papers or not.
But as an actual candidate, when you join up, you sign a pledge that states you will always vote along party lines, regardless of what your constituents say. And I'm pretty sure that most of the Labor seats constituents don't realise that. But that's what's all come out of this IBAC hearing in the last couple of weeks. So in the lower house where Labor has majority, it flew through on the same day. Now, it was due to hit the upper house this week, and it did on Monday. And Dan Andrews had the majority because he had, I think it's 17 Labor seats in the upper house. I think it's 40 seats in total in the upper house. So there were 17 of them were Labor, which are all obviously going to vote with the government. And they also had the support of 3 cross benches, which I think from the Greens, Liberals and some other party. So they had the majority. They could have just passed this thing. Until an unlikely hero.
When a hero comes along.
Adam Somyurek swoops in out of the blue. Like
public enemy number 1.
Public
enemy number 2.
Yeah. So you need to understand this. Adam Somyurek is a former Labor MP who was ousted from the party at the beginning of this year for corruption, who's just been getting grilled at IBAC for the last 2 weeks, and has literally aired all the dirty laundry about all of their corrupt tactics, the branch stacking, the dirty deals that they do,
the misuse of
taxpayer funds, etc., etc., etc.
Now, the attitudes behind Dan Andrews and the way he used to run that department.
Yep. Now, Adam Somyurek hasn't been in Parliament for like 8 months.
Been at home,
but he's still an MP.
Twitter watching the...
watching the IBAC, tweeting along with it. But he hasn't been in Parliament for like 8 months. So when you added up the Labor seats and the 3 crossbenches, that was 20 seats. So 20 was always going to defeat 19. So Adam just rolls in, puts forth his vaccine paperwork so he can come and vote against the bill. And the whole Labor government just melted down this week.
Big dick move. Big dick play.
Big dick play. And the problem is, too, you need to consider the fact this dude's literally just been sitting in front of a corruption watchdog talking about how corrupt he is. And now he's got the number 1 bargaining chip to do a deal. That's a concern.
It is a concern.
But he has uncategorically stated he is against the bill in its current form because of the amount of centralised power it gives to one person.
Did he pull some tweet from 2020 when he
mentioned he I can't remember exactly what it said, but he posted tweets up where he said like 12 months ago that he did not support that sort of power. And he's been consistent with that. So
and also consistently branch stacking and consistently hiring people for racial reasons. He's a consistent guy. Let's be real. He's consistent.
But credit where it's due, right? So you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No.
But honestly, it's bizarre because you've had, for the last few weeks, you've had those 3 crossbenchers trying to convince everyone in Victoria and the wider community that this pandemic bill is a good thing and it's the most transparent bill in the world, and Then you've had, obviously, the Victorian Bar Association, or like 60 Queen's Councils coming out, speaking against it, saying it's
Which
violations
never happens, by the way.
Never happens. They're normally completely apolitical. Speaking about human rights violations in it, speaking about like the fact that it literally allows a one man to rule by decree indefinitely, zero oversight, no end dates on anything, and no accountability either.
It's a sweet deal.
Right? So you've had these three crossbenchers talking about how this deal's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And then now all of a sudden... Oh, and sorry, at the beginning of the week before Adam Somyurek came back too, Dan Andrews tried to ram it through saying it's urgent, even though it's still a month until the state of emergency expires anyway, and there's another sitting week next week. He was trying to ram it through. There's some special urgency clause or something that you can use. So on like the Monday, he was saying it's urgent, we got to ram this thing through. And everyone else who's opposing it's like, can we at least get like one of the committees to actually read it and give some guidance and look at... Yeah. And then next minute, Adam Somyurek comes in, throws his hat into the ring, and now all of a sudden it's not urgent anymore. They didn't end up voting on it this week. They've pushed it until next week. And so Dan Andrews and his government is just on Somyurek or potentially someone else trying to get the extra vote that they need.
I listened to a radio show where they had all the MPs on hold, and the DJ was like, "Did you get the call last night from Dan Andrews?" He goes, "Yes, I did."
Yep.
"Did you agree to it?" "No, I didn't." And he had like 5 ministers there.
And this is the thing. It is so interesting to watch this because, like, I've never been engaged in politics before the last 2 years. And it's pretty typical of people, I guess. You only get engaged in politics when it starts affecting you.
Yeah.
And obviously, all of our lives have been affected by decisions politicians have made in the last 2 years. So,
unlike just about any other time.
Or at least that we've been alive.
Yeah.
All right. So I've become pretty engaged in it. And what is so fascinating about this is the pure arrogance that Dan Andrews and his Labor government has shown in that. So, with the way democracy is supposed to work, is all these different areas vote in an elected representative to represent them and their wishes. And then they're supposed to go to these big houses where they debate ideas and they fight on behalf of their people so that their voices are heard. So with this whole pandemic bill, not one person who opposed it was even consulted during the entire formulation of the bill. So
it was on the health advice, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but they were happy to consult the three crossbenchers that were always going to support them.
That's how I'm going to get out of my next speeding ticket.
Yeah, no, I was just speeding because it's the health advice.
The health advice.
Yeah, I'll just get Palaszczuk to release it, and then you'll see.
You'll see why.
Oh, she can't release it. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
it's health advice.
Yeah, it's written on the back of the Declaration of Independence.
But it is fascinating how arrogant that is to not even consult.
They don't care, man.
Almost 50% of the parliament, which means you literally are saying, hey, 50% of Victorians, I don't give a fuck what you think.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. And now that there is no majority, all of a sudden everything's changing. It'll be fascinating to see how it plays out.
Well, literally the day after, some of the restrictions lifted.
Yeah.
The day after it didn't go the way he wanted.
Yeah.
The restrictions lifted.
He just lifted everything for vaccinated people.
Because it's not about health.
It's about politics.
Politics.
That's right. Whenever the polls have gone bad for Dan Andrews, he's just given away more freedoms.
Yeah.
And even when you say it that way, you just go, like, isn't that bizarre? Like, he's given away more freedoms.
Yeah.
Like, we are a free country.
Yeah, we were.
But to play smoke and mirrors and keep everyone happy with him, oh shit, this looks pretty politically bad for me. Oh, let's just get rid of the restrictions.
What we really need to speak about is what ScoMo said during the week.
That is true as well. So, as predicted, ScoMo's entire campaign is based on
giving back everything. Indian giving what?
Giving people their lives back and their choices back, and
the ones that he kind of took.
Yeah, and he's been involved in these public spats with particularly the Queensland government this week and the Deputy Premier Stephen Miles, who I just hate that dude. You know how there's just some men...
Just the vibe, yeah.
Just the vibe?
Yeah.
I
Not a good
don't know.
marbo.
Not a good vibe at all from that bloke. But, so that, like, ScoMo came out and said that that certain state governments are breaking the pact they made with the Australian people, because 80% was always the number that we said we would start living with COVID, and 80% people who...
Which wasn't, by the way.
No, but this is the way ScoMo's spinning it.
Yeah.
80% was the number and the pact that we made, and that if, once you hit 80% double jabbed, it shouldn't matter whether or not you're vaxxed or unvaxxed, you should be able to go out and get a coffee in Brisbane.
Oh, we will support businesses. They can do whatever they want. They can have they can mandate it, but the government has got to get out of people's lives.
Yeah.
And we are anti-government mandated vaccination.
Yeah.
Those are the words.
Yeah. So completely as we predicted.
Yes. Maybe a month early in my book. I thought it was a month early because I thought he would leave his campaigning to a little bit late. I thought they could get those numbers up a little bit.
Yeah.
But maybe they progressed too fast.
I think the numbers are high enough. I think
to reach this herd immunity that doesn't exist, because Gibraltar doesn't have it at 100. So what does it have to be?
Herd immunity with these vaccines doesn't exist.
It's unheard of.
Yeah. Herd immunity won't exist until
show
everyone
title,
gets
isn't it?
COVID.
Unheard immunity?
Yeah, maybe.
Damn it. That's the first one I tried to name. Shit. Jason is very good at naming these episodes.
Oh, I try. But yeah, herd immunity won't exist until everyone gets COVID. Because, and as a lot of the scientists have been saying, the vaccines expose you to the spike protein. The spike protein is only one part of the COVID molecule. So if you're exposed to the whole COVID molecule, your body has an immune response to the whole COVID molecule, not just the spike. So we won't get herd immunity until everyone gets it. And there's a fair chance that everyone will come into contact with COVID at some point in their lifetime.
Well, they did testing in the UK. 98% of people
have antibodies.
Yeah. 98%.
Hmm.
Do you want to talk about the Merck's pill that they've reformulated?
Yeah.
Because I have a theory. You say what's happened, and I'll tell you how they got there.
So there was another interview with Bill Gates has been doing the rounds lately, and there was another interview with him this week where he mentioned Merck's new pill Molnupiravir, which I think has just been approved in New Zealand too, and just remembering the fact that there's only one study on this drug, and it's by Merck, and now 2 governments think that's enough to approve it.
I think I could get my the urine I just put in the toilet approved in Australia.
Yeah. So Bill Gates did an interview, and he was talking about how they've been able to reformulate...
No, can you say the whole thing that Bill Gates said, please? Because it's very important.
Oh, I don't remember the whole thing.
It was like, well, the stuff that we know now is that like we really needed a vaccine that stops it. Like our vaccine, just reduces like some of the sickness, but we really need one that stops it, and we kind of want the money to go into that research now. And now Merck has been able to reformulate Molnupiravir. Yeah,
I like how he says we've been able to reformulate. Like he's directly in the lab at Merck.
So that was supposed to be $700 a course.
Yeah, and for some reason they've been able to reformulate it down to it's $8
$8
a course.
Okay, ask me where they got those savings.
Well...
No, ask me.
Where did they get those savings, Alex?
They got the saline solution for Pfizer that they're not using anymore. They put it in there. They had all this saline that was gone cheap, so they put it in.
They did a swap deal. They sold tromethamine to Pfizer to get the saline back.
Yeah. And now, just so we know.
In saying that, though, the Merck even said themselves... sorry, it wasn't Merck. It was some government body in America that had stated... They had run the numbers on how much it would cost to actually produce Molnupiravir, and it was $17 a course.
I read one that said it was 70 cents.
Nah, it was $17 to produce it.
Yeah, okay.
The ivermectin courses were 53 cents.
Maybe we've already signed up at $700, I'm sure.
I'm sure we have.
Because it depends how much money you've got.
Yeah.
And we're not using our air bases anyway. Just skip it. Now, so... Just to be clear, Jason and I would have a very, very, very different stance on a potential vaccine or this rollout if it was an antiviral from the get-go.
Yeah.
That is really what got us. This is what we've all been waiting for. This thing will fly through. It's basically a copy of ivermectin, only not as good and way more expensive.
It's actually not. Molnupiravir is very different.
No, so the Pfizer one is.
The Pfizer one's
a one-pronged approach.
A single-pronged approach that has the same mechanism as ivermectin. Well, one of the same mechanisms.
Which I have a theory that you won't let me say.
Yeah, we need to hold on to that one.
Okay.
But there is a theory, and in due course, when and if it happens, we'll share it at that point. But
like and subscribe. If we get to 100 subscribers by the end of the week, I'll tell you. I'll tell you what it is.
And we'll get banned from YouTube for saying it. So, but
it is not a ridiculous idea, though.
No, it's honestly, with everything that's been going on, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate part about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like the biggest thing is right from the beginning when we had tens of millions of people worldwide infected with this brand new novel coronavirus, and the first move was we need to get a vaccine for this. When vaccines have always taken years and years and years to develop. I think on average it's 7 years to develop a vaccine. And also when you consider the fact we have never been able to create a vaccine that effectively works against respiratory viruses, because even though we do the flu shot every year, we know it's just we have to base it off 3 different strains, and there's a chance it'll work and there's a chance that it doesn't.
Yeah.
So we've never been able to successfully create a vaccine to fight respiratory viruses because respiratory viruses mutate so quickly. And there was no talk of treatment.
Yeah.
There's no talk of treatment. So you've got tens of millions of people in the world already sick.
That's what got you. That's what got you the most. It was like
Yeah.
the whole mantra was like the news was there going, we're going to help all you guys, and all these sick people behind, and they're dead. You're right, you guys. We're gonna help you guys.
how would as a scientist, how would you think? Oh well, the only logical thing is to not treat those people and just try to get a vaccine into healthy people.
And we were doing trials of potential treatments, and we stopped them.
That's right. So
here in Australia.
Yeah. So all those things these are all the steps that have been taken, which have led us to be extremely cynical about the entire thing. And unfortunately, the only conclusion that you end up getting to with all this stuff is it's about money. And we're not saying that China released the coronavirus to sell vaccines in some sort of worldwide cabal. We're not saying that.
No.
What we're saying is always got to make hay while the sun shines.
Yeah.
And always got to make the most of a good crisis.
Yeah.
And right from the beginning, Bill Gates, as we said before, was a bad actor. Bill Gates was the one who protected patents on vaccines. So if you're pro-vax, everyone could have been vaccinated 12 months ago. Or 6 months ago,
I
at
saw
least.
a stat that said the Western world has 6 doses of the vaccine to the poor one.
Yeah.
6 shots to 1.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at Australia. We've ordered enough shots so that every man, woman, and child in this country can have 6 of them.
Yeah.
Like,
and we're supposed to be part of COVAX.
And Bill Gates is like, but the COVAX scheme, like the rich countries will pay for it, and then they'll donate doses to the poor countries. There's been news stories this week about Melbourne doctors having to bin Pfizer doses because they're hitting their expiry dates because not enough people coming forth wanting them.
Yeah, but we don't have as many people as what we have doses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I saw another news story this week. A lot of pharmacists have said no to doing booster shots because they're saying $16 a shot's not enough money.
Interesting.
And that happened at the beginning of the vaccine rollout.
That's right.
Remember?
What did it go up? I know testing went from 60 to 100.
It was similar numbers. I think it was like $32 a shot, went up to $100 a shot.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there was all these walk-in clinics that you could go to just sprung up overnight.
Yeah, I had one here. Just
because then
I just opened the garage doors and I was jabbing away.
Well, if you can do it in a Bunnings car park, why can't you do it at Auto Bros?
Yeah, did you see the people passing out the Bunnings car park?
Yeah, but don't talk about that.
The comments talking about did they slip on the onions because of the onion on top of the sausage and not under it, which is the requirement.
It's a mandate. Fuck me, Dad.
Yeah.
What a world we live in. I'm just like, I'm a little bit low energy today, so I'm having trouble putting all the words
We've
together.
gone over time.
Yeah, that's okay.
Gone over time. That's fine.
But I'm just finding it so difficult to comprehend the world that we live in now. Like again, go back to 2019. Imagine Imagine in 2019 if the government went, hey guys, we need you to take this experimental drug. Go and get it at Bunnings.
Do you know what? That probably would have worked better. And
Hey, mate.
we're giving these experimental shots away. They're $4 at Bunnings.
Yeah. Hey, mate, you can't cross the border unless you go and take this experimental new drug at Bunnings. What the fuck are we doing? Where are we at? I thought it was bad enough when bloody Caitlyn Jenner won Woman of the Year. First year in the role. And now this is where we're at. Handing out jabs in a Bunnings car park.
Yeah.
Fuck me, Dad.
That's where I get a health advice from.
Yeah. It's the health advice.
And on that
at
note,
Bunnings Warehouse. Let's leave it there. Thanks for joining us, guys. And we'll see you next RDO.